The desert sun beat down like a hammer on iron. Arizona Territory, 1879, land of dust, blood, and silence. The Apache called it home for centuries. They knew its secrets, where water hid beneath dry stones, where the wind carried messages from the dead, and where enemies stalked in the shadows. But even this land, sacred and cruel, had no mercy for weakness. Her name was Taya, daughter of the Bear Clan, a fierce warrior whose blood ran hot with battle fire. Her father taught her to shoot a bow before she could speak full sentences. She trained beside her brothers, rode horses bareback with eyes fierce and wild. When raiders attacked, she fought like a ghost, quiet, sharp, and gone before you knew she was there. The others said she was touched by the old spirits. Maybe she was. But even spirits can be forgotten. One hot evening, her band camped near the Gila River. They had been on the move for weeks, hiding from cavalry scouts. Tensions were high. The young warriors were restless, eyes twitching at every distant crackle of branches. Then came the ambush. The soldiers came like thunder, rifles cracking, smoke choking the air. Taya rose from her bedroll and dove for her knife. Screams and horses filled the canyon. Bullets tore through tents. She fought, lunged, screamed war cries that echoed across the dry rocks. She saved a child, cut down a soldier, threw herself at another, but she didn't see the blast coming. A cannon shell exploded a few paces from her. The force threw her into the air, then slammed her against a boulder. Her vision swam, her body was torn. When she looked down through the smoke, her legs, her powerful running legs, were gone below the knees. Blood soaked the sand. Her cries were lost in the chaos. By morning, the soldiers had moved on, and so had her people. She awoke to stillness, the scent of blood, ashes, crows picking at the dead. She tried to scream but choked. Her cousin Nietzsche stood nearby, holding his spear like a man made of stone. He wouldn't look her in the eye. "You cannot come with us," he said, voice cracked. "You would slow us. You will die anyway." "Carry me," she hissed. He shook his head. "We have no time. We are hunted. Forgive me, sister of the blood. Walk with the spirits now." "I have no legs," she said, hate pouring from her throat. And he left. So did the others, her tribe, her family, her kin. They left her in the dirt, broken and alone. Hours passed, then days. The sun punished her. The night chilled her bones. Buzzards flew low, circling. She chased them off with her knife until she had no strength. Her skin blistered, her wounds festered. She wept one night, and then never again. She had accepted death, but fate, stubborn and strange, had other plans. On the fourth morning, with the sun bleeding across the desert sky, she heard it. Wheels creaking, hooves crunching gravel. A wagon, slow moving. A man's voice, humming some old sad tune. She squinted against the light and saw him. A tall figure on horseback, rifle across his back, hat pulled low. He stopped when he saw her. She couldn't speak. Her lips cracked, her tongue dry as leather. She gripped her knife and waited. The man dismounted slowly. His eyes scanned her body, dirt-caked, covered in dried blood, 2 legs gone below the knee, barely conscious. Still alive, just barely. "God Almighty," he murmured, "you're Apache, and you're still breathing." She tried to curse him, but her voice was dust. He reached into his saddlebag and pulled out a canteen. "Don't bite me," he said gently, lifting her head and pouring water into her mouth. It was the sweetest taste she ever knew. For an hour he said nothing more. He wrapped her wounds with old cloth, tore strips from his own shirt. He built a stretcher from branches and canvas, tied it to the back of his wagon, and then he lifted her, bones, blood, and fury, into the wagon bed. "Name's Jesse Cole," he said, wiping sweat from his brow. "You can kill me later if you like, but for now, let's get you patched up." She passed out. Jesse drove his wagon for miles until he reached an abandoned cabin tucked in a canyon near Oak Creek. He had stayed there once during his cattle driving days. The roof still held. The walls didn't fall. It was enough. He carried her inside and laid her on a bed of straw and hides. He built a fire, cleaned her wounds with boiled herbs, sewed her skin with shaking hands. She moaned in her sleep, but didn't wake. He nursed her for 2 weeks, fed her broth, changed her bandages, fetched fresh water. He didn't touch her except to heal. He didn't ask her name. She hated him. She hated the way he hummed while chopping wood, hated how gently he handled her bandages, hated the look in his eyes, like he wasn't scared of her, like he pitied her. She hated that more than anything. Then one day, as he stirred beans over the fire, she whispered, "Why?" He turned, startled. "Why what?" "Why help me?" she asked, voice rough as bark. He sighed, scratched his stubble. "Because I seen what men do to those left behind. I fought a war where whole towns burned. I know what it's like to be forgotten." "I'm nothing now," she said. He knelt beside her. "You ain't nothing. You're alive. That counts for something." She looked away, jaw clenched. "I had legs once. I was strong." "You still are," he said. She stared at him for a long time, and for the first time her heart did not feel like stone. One evening, as dusk spread purple across the sky, Jessie brought in a strange object, a piece of carved wood with leather straps. "What is it?" she asked. "A leg," he said. "Well, part of one. I worked with a carpenter back in Texas. Thought maybe we could try making you something." She blinked, unsure if it was a joke. "You'd build legs for me?" He grinned. "Hell, I've built worse." She let out a strange sound, half scoff, half cry. It was the first sound of hope in weeks. Weeks passed. The cabin in the canyon had become more than just shelter. It had become something Tyre hadn't known since before the war trails and sleepless rides. A kind of peace. Jesse Cole worked from dawn till dusk, carving, hammering, shaping. He had never built a prosthetic in his life, but his hands were used to shaping fences and fixing wagon wheels. He tried different wood grains, tested leather straps on his own boots, even rode to town for nails and buckles. Every time he entered the cabin, he'd say, "Got something new to try." Tyre had little faith at first. Her legs were gone. She was broken. Nothing could change that. But each day she tried harder, lifting her torso with her arms, dragging herself outside for sunlight, eating on her own, speaking in full sentences again. She had refused help at first, spitting the food back at him. But Jessie never yelled, never struck her, just waited. "You're not a prisoner," he told her once, "but you are my guest, and I don't leave my guests to rot." Eventually she began to eat, then to talk. Her English was sharp, though accented. She learned it in her raids and dealings with soldiers long before she was wounded. "You fought in your war?" she asked him one night by the fire. "You kill?" Jessie nodded slowly. "Yeah, killed men, boys, watched friends die in the mud. I marched with grey coats, but I didn't believe in owning folks. I just wanted to survive. After the war, I couldn't go home, so I kept moving." She looked into the flames. "Same." He stared at her. "What happened, Tyre, that day you were left?" She didn't speak for a while. "My cousin stood over me," she said at last. "Said I was dead already. They feared I'd slow them down. I begged him, but he walked away. I watched the dust from their horses fade." "Damn," Jessie muttered. "I'm sorry." She nodded, lips tight. "I do not ask pity, only revenge." "Revenge?" Jessie raised a brow. "You going to crawl after them?" Her eyes burned with fury. Then something softer. "No, I will walk." The first time she stood on the carved legs, she collapsed. Jessie caught her before she hit the floor. "Don't move like a horse," he said. "Balance, one side at a time. You're not fighting, you're learning again." Tyre cursed in Apache, but she tried again. And again, and again. She fell 12 times that day. On the 13th, she took one step before her knees gave. "Enough," she hissed, sweat soaking her brow. But Jessie smiled. "That's the first step you've taken. That means the next one's coming." Each day after, she trained. Jessie built parallel rails for her to hold as she practiced walking. Her arms trembled, her back screamed, but she kept going. Her warrior's pride had returned. She would not give the earth her body just yet. 2 weeks later, she walked from the door to the fire pit without help. Jessie clapped. "That's farther than some drunks I've known." She chuckled dryly. "Maybe I'll outrun you next." "I'd like to see you try," he grinned. One cool morning, while the desert wind whistled through the cliffs, Taya sat sharpening a knife. She was silent for a long while, then asked, "If you found the men who did this to you, would you forgive them?" Jessie paused at the chopping block. He set the axe down. "I did find one," he said. "A Yankee sergeant who ordered the shelling of my town. Saw him drunk in a saloon years later. I walked past him, didn't say a word." "You let him live?" "Yeah." "Why?" Jessie looked at her. "Because killing him wouldn't bring back my brother or my mother. All I had left was the choice to be better." Taya said nothing for a long time. Her fingers flexed around the knife. Then she whispered, "I want to see my people again." "You think they'll accept you?" She looked away. "No, but they will see me stand." Later that week, Jessie rode into town for supplies, leaving her alone for 2 days. When he returned, he found her outside, leaning on a staff she'd carved herself, standing beside the fire like a tree. He smiled. "Well, I'll be." "I stood the whole time," she said proudly. He tipped his hat. "Then we ride tomorrow." "Ride?" "I've got a cart and a mule," he said. "We'll follow the river. Maybe we find your people. Maybe not. Either way, you'll ride with your head high." The journey took 5 days. They followed old tracks and signs in the sand. Taya read the land like a book, bones left by a hunted deer, ashes from a recent fire, fresh horse droppings. "They're near," she said on the 5th day. That evening, they saw smoke in the distance. Not white man smoke, but a thin line the Apache used to signal camp. Taya insisted Jessie wait in the canyon. "I'd go alone," she said. "They will not understand you." He nodded. "You sure?" She gave him a look. "They left me. I will return standing." With her staff in one hand and her carved legs bound tight beneath her dress, she walked the trail. The camp froze when she arrived. Children ran. Men grabbed bows. Her cousin Nietzsche stood up, face pale. "Taya," he whispered. She stood tall. "Yes, I did not die. The spirits kept me. A man helped me, a white man." Murmurs rose. "You left me to the buzzards," she said, fire in her throat. "And yet I stand." Nietzsche dropped to one knee. "We thought you were gone. We had no time." "No time for your blood," she snapped. "You left a warrior like garbage. I'm not here to ask back your love. I came to show you what you lost." Nietzsche's eyes welled up. "Forgive me, cousin." She turned and walked away. The tribe watched in silence. As she returned to Jessie, he looked up from his campfire. "You good?" he asked. "I told them what I had to," she said. "Let them live with it." He handed her a cup of coffee. She sat beside him, legs stretched stiffly. "You know," she said, "if you ever want a real woman who can fight, hunt, and probably outshoot you." Jessie laughed. "Are you proposing?" She smirked. "I'm warning you." He tipped his hat. "Duly noted." They stared at the stars, silent for a while. "I lost everything," she said quietly, "but you gave me a new start." He nodded. "You gave it to yourself. I just gave you a chance." Her hand found his in the dark, and for the first time in her life, Taya, warrior, wounded, abandoned, felt whole again.